This is episode 3 of the Business Innovation series with co-host Nils Vesk from Innovation Blueprint. And in this episode, we are talking about innovative customer experience. This is a really cool podcast because Nils gives us not only, I suppose, that process and journey of taking your customer from having an enjoyable experience into becoming a raving fan. However, he also gives us some actionable steps on things that we can do from start to finish to basically create a better customer experience and a more innovative customer experience. Really interesting, and I know you're going to enjoy it. If you do get something out of this, head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, or wherever you're listening to this, and please leave us a review. It'll take you 3 seconds. We'll also read it out in following episodes, and it will help our ratings, which means we can keep creating more of these cool episodes for you. Likewise, if you've got any comments or you had any questions for Nils, you can head across to the show notes at thesiteshed.com/podcast. And you can then find this episode and leave comments directly underneath. And likewise, we'll read them out and we'll get them answered for you.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed. My name is Matt Jones and you are joining us for the third and final episode of the Business Innovation series that I'm conducting with my co-host Nils Vesk from Innovation Blueprint. Nils, hello.
Hey guys, thanks for having us.
Welcome back.
It's good to be here.
Mate, this has been a cracking series. We've basically, in the first episode there, for any of the listeners that did not listen to the first two, definitely go back and check them out before you listen to this one. They've all been leading into each other, and we've done that deliberately. In the first episode, we were talking about innovation business development, which was really cool. Nils gave us some really good actionable steps on, I suppose, questions that we can ask ourselves as business owners, which will help us then innovate looking forward. In the previous episode, we were talking about innovative business models and primarily processes. We may come back and do a little bit more on business models in another episode, but we were talking about ways that you can be creative in the space of creating systems and processes, and how you can go about doing that. So that again was also a very good episode. And then in this episode, we're talking about innovative customer experience. So Nils, I'm intrigued and excited to learn about this one because it's certainly relevant to everyone. Is there any sort of specific I suppose, business model that this targets directly, or is it pretty applicable to everyone?
It is applicable to everything, whether you're a global organisation or you're a small little tradie working for yourself with your little ute. This is really applicable, and the reason why is our businesses survive on customers, and believe it or not, customers have an expectation and they have an experience of every time they do work with us. And, it can make or break our business. So
my experience is most businesses out there are pretty familiar with, having a good customer experience. However, I'm pretty confident that very few would be familiar with having an innovative customer experience. Can you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, okay. So I would actually probably beg to differ that most tradies and most businesses do not have a good customer experience. and so the reason being is when you're on the delivery side, you'll think it's a good job when something gets done on time, on budget, you're paid for it, and the customer says thanks, we're happy, and they go away. Now, just because they say they're happy does not necessarily mean that they're really happy, and the level of experience could be often a lot higher than what it actually is. And so, what innovative customer experience basically is so how do we go from a happy customer to a raving fan? Because that's the type of thing that enables you to change your business from an ordinary business to an extraordinary business.
Yep.
And that's I would argue that most businesses, especially in trades, will be down around the average customer experience.
Okay. I suppose I should have clarified what I meant was most people are familiar with the whole terminology around creating a good customer experience, but then I suppose there's a bit of a difference there between creating a good customer experience And creating an innovative customer experience.
Yeah. And whether you like it or not, you create a customer experience. You can be a dick, and then your customers go, wow, that was a horrible customer experience. And if I can, we'll make this image available for you in the notes, because this is a really good way. If I can just explain why we need customer experience and why we need to design ways of making it more innovative.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of talk you through this. There's a kind of a chart here, and if you can imagine two axes, so you've got a y-axis going up and down, vertical one, which is around degree of memorability.
Yep.
So how memorable is your service or your product, the work that you do? And then on the x-axis, going from horizontally from left to right, we've got degree of expectation from our customers. So, and in the bottom there, we have, with low degree of memorability, we have what's called forgettable. And we also have what is expected. So when we deliver something that is just expected by our customer, what we do is we just do a transaction. They expect you to come on time. They expect you to build something on budget. We think, hey, we've done a good job. We didn't go overtime. We didn't overcharge them. The customer will be happy. Well, we just done a transaction. It's just like going into a supermarket and getting something scanned, and then you pay the dollars and you go, it's a transaction. And transactions are forgettable.
Yep.
So even though we might think that we're doing an acceptable customer experience, you're just like everyone else. It's expected because that's what, that's like expected, just professional service that's courteous, polite, on time, on budget. It's a transaction. It's forgettable. Mm-hmm. Then we move up to a degree of expectation, which is when someone requests something. So I'll give you a good example is this when, if I go on a holiday, or for me, it's more work when I'm in a hotel, because I don't really like hotels, but if I'm at a client's, I'm offered a job and I'm in a hotel, I've got an early flight the next morning. I'm paranoid because I've changed to 2 different time zones. I'm paranoid I'm going to sleep in. I say, hey, I need you to do a phone call to wake me up, but also I'm a bit of a heavy sleeper. Really need you to come and knock on my door. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't, that's not something that's normally expected, but I've requested it. And next morning at 5 a.m., they come and they knock on the door, and gently they actually come up and they go, Mr. Vesk, you asked us to wake us up. And I said, yep, thank you. And then what we've had then is a bit more of an interaction, because I asked for a little bit more, they delivered, I'm going to remember them. Yep. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Whereas I just stayed in a hotel and did it all myself. This is where we now move into the next part. So if you think of the degree of expectation, I've asked for this wake-up call. And when the wake-up call happened, because maybe my client doesn't pay for the breakfast and I'm a tight ass, so I'm not getting room service, they knock on the door and they say, Mr. Vesk, we've made you a nice honey lemon tea because we know that you're going to be speaking later on this afternoon. We want your voice to be in perfect condition.
Yep.
Now, that was totally unexpected, but did I need it? Maybe not, but gee, do I desire something like that, to be treated as something special and feel like actually they're thinking about me? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's an innovative thing that costs them nothing, cost them, 10 cents for the hot water, not even that, but it will be unforgettable. And I will remember that hotel for that one little thing for a long, long time that would make me want to go back to that client. Yep. So does that make sense? So and this is and the reality is customer expectations are changing. So when you've got a sea of competition, everyone else is doing the transaction. Sometimes they'll do an interaction and they'll be remembered, but what sets you different, what will give you an advantage, is by looking at doing something that's a bit unforgettable and unexpected that adds value in one way, shape or form.
So maybe to make it relatable to the listeners out there that are, trade businesses, you might rock up to a job, one day and there may be somebody, you might greet a lady there and the lady there's got a new puppy and all this kind of stuff. And, perhaps 6 months time, you got to come back there to do a very similar job. And this time you rock up and the same greetings and everything, except this time you might have a bone for the dog or something like that.
Exactly. Something like that. Or, how's this? Imagine, so it's a 10:30 quotation that you're going to do.
Yeah.
And you just go, you take a stab at it and you go, you know what? Most likely, most people could probably handle a cappuccino.
Yeah.
You go, I'm going to pick up a cappuccino, and I'm going to pick up a whether it's a muffin or a little treat, because I'm going to have one as well. And then you go, hey, look, I just thought you might be interested. Is it? You feel like a coffee? I just got a couple.
Yeah.
Oh, and if they don't, here's a muffin. Like that. That's unexpected. That might cost you $4. It's low cost, but they'll go, wow, this guy's really thinking of me.
Yeah.
Rather than that. So yeah, good example.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. So, what are the processes, I suppose, around creating an innovative customer experience? Like, how do we, that example that you just came up with then, how do we get in that mind space? I mean, how do we sort of be creative in that realm?
This is a really important thing. And if you haven't listened to the second episode, I encourage you to do it, because one of the things that we talk about there is in processes. And if you really think about it, all a customer experience is it's going to be a certain sense of steps that people go through. And customer experience managers or customer experience designers like to use the terminology of touch points. And that is that our customer will go through certain amount of things where they not necessarily touch you up. They'll be a good customer. But they will experience.
No wonder you're so busy.
It's experience you so many times that we call them touch points. So a good example is, okay, you might send out, maybe you're doing some old school digital old school mail brochure leaflet distribution. That's a touch point. They've experienced you. They might then call up, or they might visit your website. That first, homepage, that's a touch point. And then you could obviously know with all of your stuff the number of touch points that they go through. Then they might go, right, they commit to sending an email or a digital quotation, or they give you a call. How you answer the phone, that's the first touch point. When they start to say something, how you respond to that, that's the next touch point. Then when you turn up, maybe whether it's to do a quote or to turn up in person or whatever it might be, that's a touch point. When you leave, that's a touch point. So it's about identifying all of these individual little steps and how to do that. And now this might sound pedantic here. Really? Honestly, I've done this for some, again, multinational. I'll give you an example of a famous worldwide surf brand where before I went there, I went to one of their franchise retail stores, and I identified, I think it was 120 touch points of walking into their store. It was like, okay, first thing, touch point, looking at the display windows, that's a touch point. I'm making an expectation. Going through the entrance, that's a touch point. The first view, I think, I just listed all of these different things. Once you've got that list of all of those steps, you can then go, okay, now that we've mapped that out, you could call it the customer journey, you could call it customer touch point map, whatever you want to call it. You then go, okay, could this be better? Could I, if I was a customer experiencing that, how would I feel? Would I feel used? Would I feel abused? Would I feel respected? Would I feel pressured? Would I feel, would I feel confident? Would I feel silly? Would I feel safe? Would I feel secure? What if I was to add or combine something to this? Does that kind of make sense? So
yeah, absolutely.
And so you can do this a number of different ways. Sometimes you can do it like either numerically and just write a big list. Number one. The other one I like to do is actually get a storyboard. So you may be familiar with when someone makes a film, they create a storyboard, which is basically a sheet with 16 different little boxes in it. And so scene one is this, and this is what we've got to kind of think about with our businesses, because believe it or not, you're making a live movie that people are going to live, and it's so you go, okay, scene one, bang, how you answer the phone is an experience. Scene two, the questions that you ask after they've introduced themselves. Scene three, these are all little scenes. So often I find the best touch point experiences I've found with our clients is when we actually go through almost like frame by frame, like it's a storyboard. And if you're on any Apple users out there, If you've got pages, there's actually a pre-template that's called Storyboard that you can download, and so you can actually slot pictures in and write and script. And I've created kind of some versions for just Word and Microsoft kind of users before, but so that it's a really simple way of mapping out step-by-step processes. Yeah, okay. Step-by-step experience.
It's interesting when you talk about touch points, because I know for certain when you like trade businesses and technicians and representatives, like they have so many potential touch points. Like if you think about it, I mean starting at I suppose the website, and then going into your vehicle and your uniform, and do you take your shoes off at the door, and all these kind of things. Like they're so relevant, and it's the small things really. It's the accumulation of small things that really make that decision easier for the customer at the end of the day.
It all adds up. It all adds up. And there's some of you might be thinking, oh my God, man, it sounds like hard work. Oh, no, I don't want to do it. Don't have time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
If we tried to map the whole thing from start to finish, it would be. So it's about breaking it down and saying, okay, so I'm going to look at, mapping a certain amount of our touch points each week or once a fortnight. And I'll do it, or I'll do it whenever I've got a rainy day and we're not on, or my whatever it is. And so you just go, right, let's start with first one, as you said, could be phone. So let's look at our phone interaction. What are the steps that we want to do? And just by identifying it, that's 99, that's probably going to be 95% better than your competition, because none of them do it. So then straight away you've gotten this advantage, or they haven't even thought about it. Then you can go, I never really thought about how I greet customers. And I think I mentioned a story about how, I think it might have been the last episode, we're talking about how just by the greeting that you have on the phone was changing the conversion rate in sales. So, and so once you look at it, you go, I've never really thought about, how I send off, the invoice, or, like what if I was to add a chocolate with sending out an invoice? Yep. Oh man, but I'd have to send it by mail. Yeah, but I bet you that customer's going to pay a lot quicker, because it's sort of, got a little treat in there. I mean, whenever I do a invoice for big jobs, I could send it digitally. I send it via mail with a very thin Swiss chocolate in there, and it's like, because the accounts clerk, accounts payable clerk, they just have horrible jobs, because people are hassling them for money all the time. They get a chocolate in the mail. Yeah, and I can guarantee you're going to be the first invoice. Even if they say they've got 30-day terms, you put a chocolate in that, you will get paid probably in 3 days.
Yeah, I know. Speaking of customer experience, one of the guests we had on the show recently, Adrian from Train to Sell, he used to be a plumber in Sydney, and he had a really cool way of getting the attention of strata companies and real estate agents, and he basically would hassle them over and over again, saying, I don't want any work from you. All I want to do is get all of your team together. I want to come in there. I'm going to bring you all a big box of muffins and donuts and coffees, and I'm going to perform a rap song about my business, and then I'm going to leave. And he did that to a number of companies, and after a while they were like, wow, this guy's really committed. Let's give him a shot. And he got him into so many different real estate agents. And it's just disruptive, isn't it? Like it's guerrilla marketing 101.
Yeah. And that leads us back to that first episode we did, which was about talking about differentiation. It's about doing something different, adding value in a different way that makes you memorable, like rap dancing. Like who would think about that? And you might love it or hate it, but the law of behavioural science tells us we'll remember things that stand out, and for good or bad.
Yeah. I used to present a workshop which I called representation, and one of the things that I focused a lot on, and although I didn't know it back then, but it kind of talks about what you were just saying then about touch points. How you represent yourself is, how you present yourself personally is probably the easiest thing for you to improve, which can have one of the biggest impacts on I suppose that end result of getting the customer to go ahead. Do you rock up with, a nice clean uniform, or do you rock up with a uniform that's covered in blue plumber's glue and, a cigarette in one hand and a coffee in the other? Is your truck nice and clean? Like, does it look professional? Or is it, just a ute with all these plumbing fittings thrown in the back and, like, with a sketchy looking half ripped off logo on the side of the door, things like that. When you rock up to the house, do you smell professional or do you stink? You got BO and you haven't used deodorant and you're not freshly groomed and clean shaved, just things like that. Like some of those little things are the easiest things you can improve.
Yeah, definitely. That whole concept of perception is it's a bit of a fallacy. You may have heard when people say, people make their judgment within 5 seconds of meeting you. That was all taken out of context. It's actually not quite true. But definitely, how we present ourselves will affect the perception of someone's perception, whether they think you're trustworthy, whether they're confident with you and things like that. One of the things I focus on a lot is, let's say when I'm running a workshop or even just a client, I'm just thinking about what kind of experience is going to be a little bit different to them. So I'll give you some examples of some things that really work with customer experience. So I guess compared to a lot of my competition, my fees are a lot more than other people. So, we're talking sometimes like maybe 80% more expensive, but it's because I know the value that I do. So I have something in there. One of the fears that customers often have, or something that they have, is buyer's remorse. So they purchase on the bottom line. Oh my God, I just spent $10,000 blah, blah, for this workshop at Nils. And it's like, so I give them something that's unexpected straight away, that's just for free, that makes them think, oh man. So I'll send them a copy of my book really quickly. So they get a free copy of this book and they go, wow, we didn't even ask for that, and you sent that through. And then I'll send something else and else. So their idea of buyer's remorse of like, oh my God, I've just committed all this money and these funds, just sort of goes out the door because they get something. It's a customer experience that creates delight that's going to be unexpected, and they'll go, yeah, and they're not going to forget that. Wow, yeah, this guy was really switched on.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like you see it go the other way so often. Like you'll buy a product and then you'll be sent straight to another page where they try to upsell you into another product. And I don't know about you. I mean, there's probably science behind that, but for me, I just think, my God, these people are just taking money off me. I'm already kind of half regretting buying it, and now they're trying to get me to buy something else.
Yeah. I think if someone's invested in you. And I still think if that's, let's say, for example, their first purchase with you, you still haven't really earned the right to sell them more, because they're going, okay, I've just bought this product. I want to test it. I want to see what it's like. Remember this expectation, and we spoke, I think, in episode 2 about trust is built on experience and expectation. So they expect something, and then you've got this experience. It's an okay product, but then you start saying, but you should also need to buy this as well. It's kind of like, well, I kind of expected that this would do that. Now you're telling me I need this as well. It almost starts to create a bit of sense of distrust until they've really experienced it. But if you said, here's the first product and here's a little bonus, people love bonuses.
Yeah.
So a good example for this could be you do a job. Let's say you're a plumber, and you say, and as a bonus, we're going to give you a 1 month, or a 2 month maintenance package, which is, we'll come out and we'll and it's like, because you'll probably know whether there's going to be something that's going to go down, whether it does or it doesn't. So you can actually go, you know what, nothing's going to go wrong with this. I know this job's good, but they'll go, wow, what a bonus, like that's unexpected. Or maybe we'll come out, we'll do a bonus, inspection of, just a maintenance inspection of all of your pipes and the mains and the sewers, so that you've got an idea if anything bad's going to happen next couple of years. So it's like, again, it's a bonus little thing there that actually is probably setting up them it's creating more credibility, more trust, and they'll go, actually, we're really going to do business with that person. And then later on, you earning the right to then actually, with that assessment, go, we've realised that these pipes are probably going to need to be replaced in 3 years. Now, we don't want your work. You've invested in a sort of time, but in 3 years' time, have a look at them again, consider it, and of course, we are always available to help you do those sort of things there. So, 3 years' time, it's going to happen. They're going to check them out, and they'll say, "Hey, you came and told us about this. We think it's time we need them to be replaced. sure, we'll come out and we'll do it. Bang.
Yep. All right, look, getting to the end of this episode now, Nils, I suppose one thing I would just like to ask is, what about some actionable steps? So when we're in the space of creating an innovative customer experience, what are some things right now that listeners out there can go ahead and do and employ to improve that?
Yep. So I think, even though I'm high tech, I like low tech as well.
Yep.
Get yourself some coloured post-it notes and a piece of big flip chart paper and something like that.
Yep.
And then, as I said at the start, pick one simple sort of interaction where there's some interaction of some sort. So it might be at the start, it might be at the finish. And it's an important part. I didn't actually mention this before. People, in terms of mnemonics, that is the science of memory and how we remember and recall things, people remember and recall things at the beginning and at the end more so than what happens in the middle. So what that means is, let's say if you start your job really well, like you do a great quote and then something goes shocking, don't worry, because if you can finish it up really well, they will recall more the beginning and the end. So in terms of why this is important is it might be worth starting off with identifying the steps of a customer experience at the beginning and at the end. So you might go, how you do the invoicing and how you finish up a job. And the first one might be how you do your quotation or how you start the job. So you identify one of them, get out your Post-it notes and just go step by step. What are those steps where someone is going to be experiencing you in one way, shape or form, whether it's digital, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's on the phone. Those are the steps. And just like write down step one, that they experienced my website, bang, put it down. Step two, they call me on the phone, bang. Step three, I ask them questions around what's going on. Step four, I give them, I go out and do a quote, whatever it might be, and start to list those sort of things out there on a sheet. Then when you've got them, start to ask yourself, what can I do to make this more enjoyable for the client? What will make it more pleasant for them? Put yourself in their shoes and go, how would this make life easier for them? How would this save them time? How would this save them money? How would this make them feel more confident? How would this make them feel like they trust you more? What could you do that's unexpected that will add value that costs very little, that just makes them feel like they're respected or you really value their service? So whether it's, as you said, the coffee or the dog bone for the dog, whatever it might be, those things. And once you've got that, if you wanted to, if you listen to episode 2, you could then start to incorporate that in a process and start to actually just start to do it. I mean, it's sometimes this stuff just starts to become part of our DNA and our culture, and we do it. But to get there, often we've got to identify what we aren't doing and what we are doing, and then go, now we can innovate and make it better.
Perfect. So that's the 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
I suppose the one thing, though, that we could be the fourth is execution.
Yes. So this is kind of opening up a whole other kind of, not can of worms, but another field that we could talk about maybe another time.
Yep.
Which is, innovation really is about business experimentation. So you got a business, you got a trade. When you're going to innovate, I've got an experiment that I'm going to try this and it's going to do that. So there are four little steps around this. So really quickly, when you do a process, what you want to do is you want to make a plan. So I'm going to plan to go out there and improve this customer experience around our quotation or when we go out to meet them. Okay. What do you predict will happen as a result of doing this new customer experience? And this is important because this is how we get better. So I predict that I'm going to get 20% more referrals. I predict I'm going to get 20 more clients this year, or I predict that I won't get as many complaints from our customers, whatever it might be. Make your predictions. Even if you don't know, just have a guess. So now you've got your plan. Then you have a plan. So I'm going to plan to try this new customer experience thing with 10 customers in the next month, and I'll do it, from whatever month it might be for this month of May or month of August or January. Then once you've got your plan, you've made your predictions, you go out there and you do it. So you go, right, I'm doing it. Customer number 1, here's my thing. I'm going to try the new greeting. I'm going to bring the coffee. I'm going to bring the muffins along. I'm going to take the dog mode.
Yep.
And then we as we do that, we jot down little things. We measure stuff as we do it. So we write down and we go, hey, that was really interesting. The client said that she's already mentioned me to 2 of her neighbours. Wow. Okay. I don't know what's going to come. I'm going to write that down. Bang. She said that she was happy to give a testimonial. That's the first time she suggested, would you like a testimonial? Wow. I usually have to ask for it. Write it down. So you do it. You do it for your month or whatever it might be, and then you come back and you say, what did I predict? Let's look back over. I predicted that we would get an increase of referrals by 20%. Wow, we've actually had 20 referrals or 10 referrals. That's actually 30%. Ooh, didn't expect that. And you come back and you evaluate. So once you've done that, then you come back and you plan your next experiment. That's all innovation really is. It's about planning an experiment, predicting, go out, test it, come back, evaluate it, and then plan your next experiment. So the biggest thing that stops people from often executing is that they think it's got to be bigger than Ben-Hur, like the new movie that's come out. But the reality is it just starts small. So, okay, I don't have to do this for everyone. Let's just try it with 5 of our clients and see how it goes. Because the most important thing is you need to get buy-in and get a trust that it is actually working as well for yourself. Because you don't want to do all this effort and find, well, nothing happened. So test it. Yep. Spend a little bit of time. Don't do the whole customer experience from start to finish. Pick a part and go from there.
Yeah, fantastic. Mate, that's amazing. I think that pretty much wraps up this episode. I'm happy with that. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I mean, what I find really, really valuable, I'm always looking at what is awesome customer experience. And if it's there, I really acknowledge it. And I often interview people about it because I'll just go, hey, you know what, that was just, or I'll take photos of it because there's something special that's going on. And so next time it could be just like you go to a cafe and, sometimes you go to a cafe and there's something really special about it. Like, what's making this special? Is it because of the interaction or is it a restaurant? Or, we come across really extraordinary, unforgettable, unexpected customer experiences. And often we think, yeah, that was nice. We won't forget it. But what we don't do is translate that. How could I apply that type of experience to what I do? Well, but I'm just a tradie. I don't care what business you're in. You're in the business of delivering a great customer experience. Yeah. Whether you're a plumber, whether you're a chippy, you name it, you're a gardener, you're out there doing stuff.
Yep. No, that's fantastic. All right. Well, mate, thanks very much for that. That pretty much closes off this episode and the series on business innovation. No doubt we are going to get a lot of questions and a lot of comments. So there's a good chance we'll have you back on the show to fill in the gaps, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And I suppose in closing, where can people find you, Nils?
Yes, our best website is innovationblueprint.com.au.
Cool. And there's also going to be some links in the show notes there to, I think, some exclusive offers for any of our listeners. So stay tuned for that. The one question I do like to ask all of our guests, Nils, and all our co-hosts is, who would you like to see on the show next?
Yeah, good question. I was just trying to think about mixing it up amazingly differently, but yeah, I don't know whether you'll be able to get them on, but a user experience designer.
Okay.
Yeah, Interesting. I don't know if you know much about user experience. I'm sure you would as a web designer, but yeah, that would be someone I would, or someone like Francisca. She wrote an awesome book just the other day called Persuasion. That could be something. That could be a good, sorry, not persuasion, perception. Which she's got some really cool things to say about that sort of stuff.
Okay, well, maybe I'll get you to intro me in an email.
Cool.
All right, fantastic. Well, mate, that pretty much wraps this up. Thank you very much again for your time.
All right.
Listeners, if you enjoyed those episodes and you enjoyed that series, please go ahead and leave us a review in the show notes. Leave us a review on either iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. Likewise, if you know anyone that could benefit from that amazing content that Nils has just shared with us, then go ahead and share it. Just send it across to them. That would be very much appreciated. The reviews you guys leave us in iTunes actually help our ratings on the platform, which means that we appear more and which means we can stay going for longer. So if you are enjoying it, please take 5 minutes just to do that. It's pretty simple. There's links on the siteshed.com website, so just follow them. And that's pretty much a wrap. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from the show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.